Hey, this is Russ Payton with Roleplay Public Radio. This is RPPR episode 137, JoJo's Compelled Aspects. We're going to be talking about player disadvantages using Fate and anime, particularly JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, as a lens. Thank you, Shaun, for that term.
Oh, yeah.
To examine why player disadvantages are, in fact, awesome, and you should use more of them in your game. This is a player-facing episode. So Tom is not here. He is on vacation. He is elsewhere in the country. So
flying as he is wont to do.
Yes, so. Powered by his own flights of imagination. No, he's on a plane. That's how
the jet set.
Yeah.
But we have Aaron and Shaun here. So,
Yay!
Yeah. And they're not even going to give me any shit about my announcer voice, and that's great.
Why would I do that?
Because we can do the announcer voice too.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, before we get into that, a bit of news. As you've already noticed on the feed, Mix 6, Caleb, Spencer's, and I, me being the producer of it, podcast is up. The Patreon is up. I'll have a link to there on the show. This is a separate entire podcast with its own feed, its own Patreon, its own everything. I'm working on it. And so
is in the process of budding off.
So we will not mention the Mix 6 on RPPR anymore. It's not going to be on the same feed, so you need to subscribe to that. We're in the process, hopefully soon, of getting it on iTunes and all that other junk. And yeah, so that's just something to think about.
Please give them a listen and support Caleb and Spencer on this new project, and producer Ross,
and me to a lesser degree, yes, because I'm doing all the technical work. Because I'm the one who knows how the microphone.
They'll like nudge him with a stick every once.
Through a power.
They'll nudge him with a stick every once in a while in the back to see if he's alive.
I get to say things occasionally on the podcast. And buzzed and drunk Caleb and Spencer are always entertaining to be around. So. There you go. So anyways, enough about that. Let's get on to the show. I got the idea for this a while ago while I was watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Like you do.
Which is a great anime series. In part 3 particularly because one thing, for me, obviously, as someone who has written a Fate role-playing game, it was like, holy shit, this is so Fate, like in terms of aspects and compels and invocations. And then I realized this could be a great way to just. I notice a lot of times when I'm running Fate games, especially at conventions, that a lot of players have a hard time picking up on it or like understanding. And certain players, but I mean, the players that do pick it up have a great time, but the others are like, I don't like. They may get a bad idea of Fate. And so explaining why Fate and using player disadvantages in a larger context for other role playing games is actually a great way to encourage role-playing and to have a better game can be explained through JoJo, because in part 3 particularly, it's incredibly structured in that every single goddamn episode, practically every single goddamn episode, is enemy of the week.
Yes.
Here's a guy that wants to stop JoJo and his friends. Or a woman or a gorilla or whatever. And
gorilla?
A baby.
Yeah. A baby.
Yeah. Evil baby.
Evil baby. That was a two-parter.
Yes, it was. It was a great one.
And JoJo, no matter how many times JoJo have gone through crazy, and his friends have gone through crazy bullshit, they fall for the enemy's tricks every single goddamn time.
Well, to be fair, a lot of times they'll pick a member of the group that has a specific fault that gets called upon very quickly, which, as you were pointing out, fits very well with calling out aspects in the Fate system. So, for example, Joseph is a blowhard. He's always going to try to impress people. He also has the mechanical hand, which keeps getting used against him. It's never been an advantage in part 3. Not really.
He used it to block 1 or 2 attacks, I think.
Right, but usually it was that his hand was getting taken apart at some point by someone. So, that kind of thing. Or magnets, how do they work?
Actually, before we get into that, we should actually get into a larger discussion of player disadvantages.
Okay.
And why and Fate in general, because not everybody's going to be familiar with Fate as a role-playing game. Player disadvantages obviously have been around forever, for a long time in role-playing games. GURPS is obviously one of the big older systems that uses disadvantages.
Right.
And in most role-playing games, the way it used to work, and in some role-playing games to this day, the way it used to work is that if you take it a disadvantage at character creation, you then get some sort of benefit to compensate for it. Usually, like in GURPS, you would gain additional character points, like, oh, being blind in one eye, that's 10 points. Have 10 points to spend on being a forger sniper or whatever.
Right.
Or if you're going in Old World of Darkness on your character creation, too, you could get more dots when you needed that.
Well, yeah.
So.
More freebie points.
The idea was that in
freebie
character
points,
creation, it was all front loaded.
Yeah.
It was all character creation, so you could start as a bigger badass. But down the line, the goal was always to pay it off.
Right.
Unless you were a really good role player.
Now, the problem with that is this puts more burden on the GM in order to be like, oh, there's the GM has to keep track of all these disadvantages. Even if you're with like 3 players, then it's like 3 players each have their unique disadvantages, and this is all while you're trying to run a plot and everything else. And so it was very common, at least in my experience, that the GM forgot about those disadvantages,
and players would just not remind them.
Players would be "Oh yeah, and see, actually, this the La Sombra vampires have a price on. They put a price on my head, and so this La Sombra we're talking to should just try and kill me right now. I'm not going to mention that.
No.
Yeah.
That kind of brought up that old distinction of real men, real role players, and munchkins and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The real role player would be the guy who's latching on to those disads and trying to hammer it home every 10 seconds.
So that was and so people kind of realized that this was sort of an imbalance on the GM's part, and the new way of doing things, or the newer way, the different philosophy is I don't know which system did it first, but it's most typified in Fate, where you have aspects, which are little phrases that describe your character. Like ladies' man, or obsessive scholar, or any number of kind of traits. And you can use them in 2 ways. One is to invoke them by spending a fate point, and then you use that to gain an advantage in multiple different ways. You get a bonus on a roll, you could even re-roll, or you could gain some sort of mechanical, some sort of specific effect in game, like knowing somebody in a particular, like, oh, I'm from this city, so I'm a native of Chicago, so I know a gangster in Chicago. I'll just spend a fate point to know this guy. On the other hand, then there's Compels, in which you are put at a disadvantage and you gain a fate point. And so, ladies' man, okay, you're going to hit on this woman who is clearly a La Sombra assassin, who is clearly here to kill you, but you're going to be oblivious to that and just try and, buy her a drink. And then she's going to literally stab you in the back, because I have not been more obvious about this. And be like, yeah, no, I want that fate point. And so that is that puts the work on the GM. Can compel a player when they remember it, but then the players could also call for compels,
which is nice too, because not only does, you're right, that takes the load off the GM, but that also prompts for more good character and storytelling prompts on the side of the players.
And I know in RPPR, especially this has really come up in our upcoming Base Raiders campaign, Game 9, when Caleb and basically everybody at the table really embraced, can I get a compel for this? And just racking up the fate points. Because in terms of narrative structure, this sort of emulates typical adventure or genre fiction, where the hero suffers a lot at the beginning, and then especially in anime, it's always like the hero's getting his ass kicked the entire fight until he's like, aha, I figured out your secret weakness, and I'm gonna pull some bullshit out of my hat and totally destroy you. Or you forgot this one little detail,
or just beaten down until the next power up comes, or
I must persevere because of the power of my friendship. I can't so I'm gonna blow 8 fate points at once.
Yeah.
And knock you literally into the moon. And so now the problem. So that's how compels player disadvantages work. There are other disadvantages. There are you can put flaws on superpowers in Base Raiders, for example, and there's other things like that. But that's the core in all Fate games. They pretty much have that. That's sort of a fundamental aspect of Fate. And I've noticed a lot of players. Some players will always embrace this, but some players really are hesitant to put their character at any disadvantage. They don't want anything bad to happen to their character, or they don't trust the GM at all, and so they think maybe they're used to D&D killer GMs who would use that to screw them over. And it's really unfortunate because Fate is not it's not the fucking Tomb of Horrors.
No. And I think that's also important too with any kind of gaming, to get somebody else into a comfortable mode where they realize that failure isn't the worst thing, that you can still have a fun time while not having to succeed, or at the very worst be the special snowflake hero of the entire.
Well, it kind of goes into that whole game versus narrative aspect.
Yes.
I mean, we're still playing a game, but the older games were very game centered. And I know I'm covering very basic things here. I know.
Yeah.
But, they're very game centered, and as things developed, narrative became more important. More people were open to it. It's not that nobody ever did it.
Yeah.
Again, to go back to GURPS, there were legendary games of GURPS in some alt historical setting played by a bunch of people who are like inveterate, plot. There's just all of the plots, and they're playing up their disadvantages right and left. And then there's those games where it's like, yeah, he wanted some disadvantages, so he took gigantism, bloodlust, and sadism for his combat monster character.
Yeah. Oh, the things that let me be more of a badass and give me an excuse to attack other player characters.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But can giganticism just give you a weak heart so you finally explode? See, that would be the Fate aspect of it. Is like big muscles, weak heart.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
That's the difference between Fate and GURPS.
Yeah, GURPS is very much like trying to simulate reality. I mean, it's trying to it's very it's very like, here's the formulas for how these things work, and these powers have specific mechanics. Where Fate is more narrative, where it's more based on context. A gigantism aspect in Fate could be used to invoke that, but in GURPS, if it's not written in the gigantism flaw, it's the player would be like, you can't do that. You can't just add new rules to it. That's bullshit.
It's pretty crunchy.
Yeah, it's very, very crunchy. I mean, especially depending on how many supplements you add onto it.
Oh yeah.
So in JoJo, in every single part, characters have very specific traits, very specific aspects. So let's talk part 1. So that's because that's the one we've all seen.
Yes.
And so, like, the main character, Joseph Joestar, that's his name.
Jonathan.
Right? Jonathan Joestar.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Not Johnny though.
Yeah.
Different guy.
Like one of his aspects would be chivalrous nobleman, or gentleman.
Definitely that. Not when he was a kid though, but as he got older, he became the very picture of a Victorian gentleman.
But in that case, I think it could be even modified to both like negative and positive, to chivalrous to a fault.
That's the point, though.
Well, that's the thing. That's why it's an aspect. So, like, I would say, for example, he was compelled. He gained fate points when he decided to trust Dio, despite all the evidence.
Quite a few times.
Or when he attacked those bullies that he couldn't win.
Right.
And
that's chivalry right there.
He invoked the aspect when, for example, when he was fighting God, I can't even think of his name.
Was it the big vampire or the little vampire?
No, not the vampire.
Are you talking about the
guy with the top hat?
Oh, Speedwagon.
Speedwagon. Oh, yeah.
Robert
So when he fought
Edmund
Speedwagon, he invoked that aspect to so impress Speedwagon that Speedwagon decided to become his ally.
That was a social attack. Yeah.
Yeah.
It worked pretty well.
Well, I would say it was, you can.
Well, I mean, he took
all those fate points to win him over.
He was given probably some kind of invoke that said, well, you can gain fate points for your big social role, but you'll have to lose health points.
Yeah.
So
that's one way of it working out. So he so impressed the street thug, this criminal, that he was so strong and gentlemanly, and so he's like, I will give up my life of crime to help you, because
it was so hard.
That was,
and he impressed everybody in like London's crime alley. They're like, well, we don't mess with Joseph anymore.
Yeah,
it's called
Jonathan,
Ogre Street.
Yeah.
Goddamn it, Ogre Street.
Ogre Street, yeah. So, on the other hand, the villain, the antagonist, Dio, certainly has aspects.
Yes, his primary is Heathcliff Incarnate.
Yeah, we've discussed this earlier. Well, I mean, but no, Wuthering Heights was a huge influence, I think. Everybody always says Fist of the North Star meets Dracula. Dio's tale is really, as Aaron said, Heathcliff's tale in that respect. Yeah. He's invited into a home. He grows up. He feels like he needs to take it over to prove how awesome he is. And he kind of almost succeeds.
Yeah.
The House of Joestar is ruined.
Oh yeah, he in this case, spoilers for it. Yeah, he's almost poisons him before Joseph, because he sent Joseph out into Ogre Street.
Jonathan went out there on his own accord.
Yeah, Jonathan. I said Joseph, didn't I?
To find the cure. because he noticed something.
But I mean, the main let's talk let's see here. His aspect could be obsessive rivalry, or
actually an aspect would be ideo.
Yeah,
because everything is about him. He's very much
he's self-centered. Yeah.
If it's what I want to do goes. Otherwise, F you, and that actually carries on to a lot of compels and aspect calls. And also little tiny details like, why would you make a cat with a human head? Because Dio wanted a cat with a human head. What?
That you immediately destroyed once it bad mouths you.
Because he mouthed off to
that could have been a compelled. You lose one of your minions for the next scene because you've destroyed them in a fit of petty anger. So
yeah, exactly.
And so this kind of fuels the narrative. And so on a larger sense, like every single fight in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure follows the same structure, where it's almost an entire, very like the hero keeps getting compels against them as their strengths are turned into weaknesses, and until they can have enough fate points to I'll use this fate point to do this, I'll spend all these fate points to gain a bunch of situational advantages over it, and then I'll make one attack and defeat them in one punch.
And actually, that probably would be really well personified in Baron Zeppeli's final moments too, where I could probably almost put that as the aspect I've seen the form of my doom.
Yeah,
and he knows it's all going to Jonathan's benefit, so he just builds that up. He keeps getting his arm messed up. He will keep getting killed, his ass kicked by the whichever
Tarkus.
Yeah, Tarkus, until the point where he
which is a metal man too.
Yeah, he is a metal man. Until the point where
also an album by Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
I thought it was a full. Okay, what's the one with the armadillo tank?
That is a prog rock album.
Okay.
I think that. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, till the point where he goes to Jonathan and says, "Well, I give you all my power to go forward," and that
transfer of fate points.
Yeah.
Or to build up a bunch of situational aspects.
Yeah.
Because then fate aspect can also be for the scene, for the environment,
and that would make sense because in this
temporary aspects.
So here's my last ripple aspect.
Yeah, and that makes sense because for context of the listeners, Jonathan was chained up to Tarkus.
In a very elaborate death
trap, both by their necks. Essentially, think of the chain that Brock Sampson was chained to Baron Underbite.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen any of those, it's fine.
Yeah, so
don't worry about it. Just watch JoJo. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Or watch the Venture Brothers.
And you could say he spent his last fate point to invoke. I know my fate, that aspect, in order to say I want to be able to. I'll be dead, but I want to be able to give one last speech before I really die for realsies.
Oh yeah.
So the GM might have even just given that to him for free.
Because it was pretty awesome.
It was pretty awesome. So I think in general, player disadvantages. Of course, that meant that his character had to die, for example. So oh well, that kind of sucks. But obviously, new characters came in immediately afterwards.
Right. Well, I mean, also with Fate, one of the big things.
Petty.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the thing about Fate is that you do not get killed off
normally.
Well, in extreme cases, you're just out of the scene, but you can elect to be have that character killed off.
Yeah.
So
you do have narrative control over that. So maybe he wanted that in order to bring in a new character and also to have a complete arc for Baron Zeppeli. So
right.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's to the structure of the narrative that makes it richer and more entertaining for everybody.
So in general, we could talk also about other anime series too, but I think what would you say to some? How would you encourage players to take more disadvantages or to invoke them in play, to compel them in play? And again, other systems have ways of doing this. In Eclipse Phase, for example, you have motivations which you can use. Same in Red Markets, for example.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So looking at it through the anime lens, are there any other structural elements that you would have?
I'm trying to think of the elements because you're giving that for basically the end up finding the advantage of the situational ones. One we mentioned for in the lens of of anime is the power up, just building it up to the point where you get the situational one. going with the very basic.
You could say the power-up is just gaining more fate points.
That's true.
Because, so one thing, I know you haven't watched Part 3 yet, but, Part 3 introduces other protagonists other than the latest Joestar guy. Because the Joestar guy, as a character in the Part 3, is very flat. He is a very archetypal, super tough guy, Fist of the North Star type.
The Jotaro, for the record, is specifically based off of Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Literally based off of Clint Eastwood.
So he says very little, and he's very stoic and very tough, and he's never really portrayed as being too foolish in any example.
He'll trust people to see where this is going.
Yeah.
But then he'll also have to sit there and think of some cheesy one-liner at the end of it.
Yeah.
Every single time. He writes a dude an ass-kicking receipt.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So I think I've seen that one. But the other thing is at least from my interpretation of the series, is that the author was getting kind of bored with that, so he introduced other protagonists who had more recognizable, more exploitable character flaws, and then he based the anime is more about them, at least by the halfway point, than it is about Jotaro.
No, Jotaro's there for he's there for the final battle. Everybody else is getting these great character moments. Polnareff, especially, gets so many compels.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about him. So in Part 3, one of the characters is a Frenchman named Polinar.
Oh, is he the one with the 12-mile high hair?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is awesome.
And he is on a quest for revenge. Because an enemy stand user killed his sister.
The man with two right hands.
The man with two right hands. So that's a pretty, those are a couple aspects right there,
that get compelled frequently.
Yeah, he's also a ladies' man. He's also very foolish.
And he has a weird thing about toilets.
Yeah.
That's
a running gag.
It's
a running gag.
It gets thrown into his compels a lot.
Yeah. So his quest puts him at odds with the other group a lot, because first he's an enemy, because he was, of course, every single character is introduced because they're being mind controlled by Dio.
Because Dio has
Dio comes back? Really?
Yeah. He's literally the enemy for the rest of the series.
And that could be the Dio aspect. Yeah. They always come back.
Yeah.
It's not that direct. Anyhow.
Well, that's more of a campaign aspect.
Okay.
Because there are campaign aspects in a lot of versions of Fate. So Polnareff, he has this quest, but he's also very foolish. So a lot of the episodes are entirely based on enemies using these compels against him. So Polnareff, he obviously spent almost all of his refresh in order to have a really badass stand to do all his fighting. And so he doesn't have very many fate points on his own. So he has to get these compels in order to do anything.
I mean, it moves almost light speed. It has an armor power up. I mean, it's a badass stand. It stabs things. That's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing.
It can move literally at the speed of light.
Yeah. So in terms of a scenario, an average thing would be we'll just talk about not an exact episode, but sort of if you had Polnareff. Actually, yeah, let's do this as your GMs.
Okay.
If Polnareff was your player in a game, how would you? So knowing his characteristics: quest for revenge, ladies' man, foolish, frequently gets attacked in toilets. So those are four aspects, and he also has this superpower of summoning a stand, an armored guy, a knight with a sword, super strong sword, super fast,
called Silver Chariot.
Yeah, and so knowing that, Aaron, you not having to actually watch his act, how would you run him as a character? I mean, as a GM, and then as a player, how would you?
Okay, so in that case, player.
So what kind of adventure would you run for him?
What adventure would I run for him? Oh God. So, listen, gets attacks in toilets, ladies' man.
Quest for revenge.
Quest for revenge too. God, I can almost just see him constantly. If these ladies' man, he's finding this guy, constant, never-ending stream of nightclubs where he's trying to track down the person who killed his sister, because he's obviously a serial killer going through that. Yeah. He constantly gets distracted by this woman who is going to inevitably be an assassin, draws him into the bathroom, and he gets attacked in the toilet.
There you go.
That's about right, yeah.
That's very true to form. And so,
or they tried to use the toilet as an extra dimensional portal to suck him down, because that toilet can be a stand user as far as I know in JoJo.
There you go.
There was one object to stand user, but that's in part 4.
God damn it. I was joking.
Listen, Aaron, so you can ask Paul anything, just make shit up. And if anybody who's read, even through part 7, I'm like only partway through part 8. I was waiting for it to finish up.
Yeah.
And there's a respectable chance the person will go, yeah, that happens.
So, for you, how would you run an adventure for Polnareff?
And again, part of it is I'm going to have to kind of back off a tiny bit because I know his adventures. The typical thing would be to lure him into a place that we know some woman's going to be sitting by herself. Mm-hmm. But the lure is he's heard that somebody there has information. So obviously you start off with that. But
yeah, for his quest.
Definitely go in there. The rest of the group's like trying to pull him back into the main quest or assist him so he'll just cut this crap off already. Mm-hmm. That's how you get the rest of the group in.
Yeah.
He's going to be blind to the fact that the woman that he decides to talk to, who will weirdly have the information, is going to know a little too much about the quest, about Polnareff, and the rest of the group has a chance to try and do things, but Polnareff gets all those wonderful compels to just brush them off. Because
there's actually, that's another big thing is like, a lot of this anime series is based on the characters not recognizing that they're in an anime or that the tropes are happening around them. They blithely ignore so many warning signs.
Well, I mean, a lot of the episodes are literally based off of horror movies.
Yeah.
Specifically horror movies. I mean, you can sit there and go, that's inspired by Trilogy of Terror, part whatever.
Yeah.
I was looking at least at the first one, seeing some of the Hammer influences there. So.
Yeah, it's right there because Araki is a big fan of like horror movies, music, that kind of thing. So it all shows up. But yeah, the big thing is make a point of, if it's definitely a JoJo-based campaign, throwing out all the tropes and looking the player right in the eye and saying, I'm going to offer you a compel to be ignorant.
Yeah.
And the player has to make a decision. Do I game the system or do I accept the fate point to do something stupid?
Yeah. And I think that's the better consideration too, because sometimes you don't want to do that. You can have the arguments that this one situation my character won't do this, but by taking it later on, you give service to the narrative and give yourself the chance to pull off that cool move later on.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is also because in anime, like it's not D&D. Characters aren't just like the thing is a lot of players start out with D&D and war game kind of based RPGs where characters can die at literally anything.
Yeah.
And so they develop this kind of paranoia, and that kind of doesn't help them.
It influences their decisions.
It doesn't help them with this kind of more narrative structure.
Well, yeah, I've actually seen a lot of people who weren't used to Fate try and jump into it now that I've gained more experience. And a lot of players have this mentality of if they're trying to run Fate or play it, they still remember the antagonism of player versus GM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was a thing. That was a real legitimate thing with the GM wringing his hands and, I'm evil. And the player is going, I will defeat you, GM, and defeat you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are still locked in that mentality, and they don't step out of it very easily. There's a lot of systems now that, not just Fate, but others, that really encourage a stronger collaboration.
Yeah.
Actually, Monster of the Week itself literally explicitly states, tip to GMs, be your player character's biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
I like that.
Or the other collaborators, too, like Puppet Land, too.
Oh, definitely, yes. That was great.
As we will plug this.
Yeah. No, Puppet
No,
Land.
it was a fantastic.
It's out now.
Yeah.
Please buy it.
Out now.
So one thing I thought of as an adventure, if I was running a game for someone who was running Polnareff as a character, would put sort of a complication on his quest for revenge, because that's his primary motivation, is to get revenge on that guy who done killed his sister. Now, he also has kind of a code of honor. He does believe in he's not quite a chivalrous gentleman, but I mean he's more, if he gives his word on something, he's pretty much going to stick with it. Would you say that's pretty fair?
Fairly. I mean, it's also just he weirdly has a thing about fair fights.
Yeah, fair fights.
The illusion of the fair fight is a thing that comes up a lot in most anime, really, where some guy goes, well, I see you've been weakened. Let me just drop a few advantages to make this some more even so I can beat your ass myself. You know.
Yeah, no one else step in. I'm going to fight this guy.
Drop your toys. Let's fight man to man.
Nobody gets to kill him but me.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
So one thing I would do is first introduce an NPC into the game. Let's say a woman, so we can evoke that ladies' man thing, that actually saves Polnareff's lives. Or warns him of some danger, something like that. They don't know each other; they're strangers. And then says, "I have to go be on my way over here. Thank you. And, Polnareff is very grateful. And so I'll give you, I'll give you a fate point. So no fate points are spent yet. It's just, you get this warning. So, all right, good job. Then later on, he finds out, the man I've been looking for, or someone on that, there's a person I need to get to in order to advance my quest.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my target myself, or maybe it's his friend or someone who knows him. But standing in his way is actually that woman, who has actually sworn loyalty to that guy because maybe he saved her life earlier on. And so now Polnareff is now he will gain a compel if he's, all right, I'll just give you a compel point if you can't do anything because you have these two conflicting desires. One, to pay off the debt you have to this woman, by not attacking her. And two, you have to get past her. She's bodyguarding this guy that you have to get to. So,
and setting up the impossible choice yet again.
Yeah, setting up the impossible choice. So, because that's also a very JoJo thing, I think, is there are a lot of...
There are impossible choices, and actually one of the funnier things, I guess really, in the later part of Part 3,
yeah,
Jotaro he takes the back row and lets everybody else get all those fate compels and build up, things. Jotaro, if he was a player, is that guy who's sitting back and letting everybody else do the heavy lifting and jumping in with a powerful character last minute and doing the Gordian knot solutions.
Yeah.
One example, I guess, are we allowed to do that many spoilers for this one?
Well, I'm only got halfway through Part 3. So
okay, so I won't spoil it then. At some point, everybody else is just going along with an illusion, and he just goes, no, fuck it.
Yeah.
Punching it.
Is that the sun?
No, it's...
Because I have seen the sun.
I don't think it's an actual stand user. I can't remember
now.
It's in Dio's palace.
Okay, yeah, I haven't got that far.
Dio has a palace. Deal with it.
Well, of course he does.
Well, God, in the first one, he literally had the Castlevania castle.
He really did.
I looked at it and went like, that's off the cover of the game.
Yep.
Well, early manga was fairly derivative.
Yeah, weirdly enough.
And so they just did it.
Which I'm sure that was derived from somewhere else, but that's where I remember it from. So
it was cool.
So yeah, I mean that actually introduces an interesting sort of, like, one thing is like putting multiple aspects or multiple against each other. So like if you have a character who's now conflicted over, not just that they're put at a disadvantage, it's that it becomes an internal conflict, and that creates an interesting role-playing game because then the player can't resolve it on their own. The other players have to step in. But then, like, there's a lot of great role playing. It's like, okay, do you want us to go? We can go attack this woman. No, you can't attack her. I owe her my life. Well, wait. Well, that guy, you need to talk to. You need to deal with that guy, right? Because that's where he goes, yes, what do I do? So, like, then it becomes an entire adventure just dealing with this conflict. Yeah.
And so the other players are trying to jump in, find ways around it, or one guy's got another complication.
Maybe we can sneak past her, you know. Maybe we can talk to her. Maybe we could trick her.
One guy's like, oh, I can just push out of the way, but I can't hit a woman. He's like, well, that will be a thing.
Yeah,
yeah, or
maybe like maybe another character is like this bodyguard woman is also the only one who's supporting an orphanage. She's using her bodyguard wages to support an orphanage. Like, well, you're too honorable. Why do you have to work with that guy? He saved my life. And you wouldn't understand.
They're afraid to say anything.
Well, you can actually put that into the other anime as well too. The one I can think of, Medieval's Full Metal Alchemist, where let's say Ed, one of Ed's primary ones is highly protective of family. That's like biological other one. So and spoilers for the first series, when he gets to Sloth and realize that's the reincarnated homunculus of his mother, the one they originally created, he has an absolutely difficult time that's like attacking her in the first part. It's like, all right, if you're a character, take that aspect, take the compel for that you can't attack her in this certain, you're completely frozen until he builds it up to the very end where it's like, all right, I'm going to finally spend all these to do my super move and take you all out. So,
and that's more dramatically satisfying as a player and as a GM than I'm just going to, okay, well, I make my will save to attack my, homunculi mother.
Absolutely.
Momoculus?
Homunculus?
Yeah.
Homunculus?
A mother. So,
really whatever it is. So, I mean, but again, a lot of players just don't get that, I think.
I think one of the things that, a way that you can do this outside of the game itself is just encouraging the culture where people tell their game stories. And some people have their stories of, and then I rolled a crit and it was an auto kill. Those are boring stories, people. I don't want to hear that. Oh, we played in this game where, and somebody starts describing the character, and instead of talking about how badass they are, they start talking about all these flaws and how it led to some really great role-playing moments. I'd rather hear that story. Yeah. If you create a character in a game that isn't a power wank fantasy, for how awesome you wish you could be.
Yeah.
And more of the kind of character you like to see in a show, read in a book, hear in some kind of radio drama, whatever. Some kind of character that you want to actually see, not want to be. I think that could be a better encouragement, but more people have to tell those stories.
Interesting characters do have flaws. Like, I mean, the thing we want to avoid. I mean, the thing is, a lot of players they a lot of readers and people who consume fiction hate Mary Sue's as characters, but there's a lot of role players who will only play as Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Confession: I hate Son Goku. He's boring.
Son Goku. Oh, from Dragon
Ball Z. He's boring to me because it's just like, and then he got another power up, and now he's badass.
Yeah. And he's powered by friendment.
You know the funny thing is that they
Vegeta's more compelling as a character.
I love Vegeta. He's great. He's an asshole.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, this will spoilers for anybody, but last arc of Super Goku. Well, Goku really didn't get the last hit in. So for this one, it was somebody else. I will not say who. For this last arc,
Krillin, we know.
I wish.
Krillin for the win.
I wish. Yes, no, he has absolutely been my favorite character.
Krillin is a fun character, to be honest.
He is. I love him,
but he gets the shit knocked out. I mean, I think DBZ Abridged has the Krillin owned counter.
Yeah, they do, and they actually made a joke saying, like, "Do you realize how many? If I had been a Saiyan, how many times I've been taken out? I would be unstoppable." I know.
Yeah,
But no, they have another character, and apparently pissed so many people off.
That Goku wasn't the one
that didn't land the last strike.
Well, that's kind of
like I said. So Mary Sue, it's the reason why. I know Superman has flaws, but as an early comics reader, I disliked Superman. He was just too shiny, too perfect.
Even his compels are boring. Like Boy Scout, must do the bestest, goodest thing.
I can't kill people,
but you can also go into the opposite way the opposite of that, where you have like Batman, who has so many flaws, he became perfect on the other side.
Right. I mean, and then there's also the point where we all got worn out of the '90s uber edgy, super tragic characters because it all just became the same character in perpetuum. But I mean. A good character is going to have flaws, and they're going to be more defined by their flaws than what they're good at.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's true. But the main thing is also that it's quality over quantity. I know it's in Fate, especially the newer Fate, like versions of Fate Core. They cut down on how many aspects you have. In Base Raiders, you can have 10 aspects or whatever, and that's fine. But honestly, most characters in the Base Raiders campaign have only compelled a couple of aspects over and over again because those are their sort of some aspects are more important than other aspects.
Yeah.
But it's very tempting to load up on tons and tons of disadvantages. I've seen the opposite too, where a player has so many special snowflake disadvantages that they try and hog the spotlight all the time. And
it does happen.
Yeah. I mean, JoJo is actually really good about that because they do split up screen time among all the protagonists, especially in Part 3.
Part 3 was very much an ensemble cast as opposed to Parts 1 and 2, which were very Joestar. Part
1 and 2, they had it was the Joestar protagonist plus his helpers.
Right.
It wasn't a team.
Part 2 did add a sidekick for a while that made it more team-like, but you knew he was there to sacrifice himself. So
right. Well, he was a rival.
Spoilers.
He was heroic.
I actually didn't really spoil that one for you because he gets multiple sidekicks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
But so like I said, it's it's in the name. That's all I'm going to say for that one.
I mean, that's the thing is when you're making a player character, pick a couple of interesting disadvantages. Don't load up on them. Don't. So
I also think balancing disadvantages among the groups so that you don't have multiple.
Oh, you have the same.
I have a tragic backstory. Everybody has a tragic.
Or you're not sitting there with Team Paraplegic. So
right. Again, back to the. JoJo's
actually, I think Team Paraplegic would be an incredible adventure because I think that would actually really work if everyone had that same disadvantage. That would be really because then it's about overcoming that, and that would actually be really cool. I think
in different ways.
Yeah, that could.
I mean, Crippled Masters is a great kung fu movie.
God damn it, you were going to bring that up. I knew you were going to bring that up.
Aaron, if he had not, I would have.
So I think that actually overcoming that kind of disability would, for an entire player character group, would be amazing. Well, now, what wouldn't be is if everyone had a tragic backstory and quest for revenge. Especially if it was all a different asshole. If there's 6 players, there's 6 assholes that need to die.
Well, with the... to go with JoJo Parts again,
as
far as group dynamics, Part 3 was great for it, don't get me wrong. One of the best group dynamics I've seen in any JoJo was part 4, which is still, I believe it's coming to the animated version is coming to a close. Part 4 was just an amazing ensemble cast and more of a local mystery instead of a globetrot.
Right.
And all the main characters had some overlap in their disadvantages, but their flaws were very strong defining, aspects of them. The new JoJo, for example, one of his crucial flaws was that he was very, vain. So at the point where this is not a spoiler. Yeah. You insult his hair, he will not just lose his temper, he will just go major psycho on you. So people have to restrain him or. Yeah,
a short temper. That's a common flaw, especially in anime characters. Like obviously, the Full Metal Alchemist guy is, if you call him short. Even cool. I know that, and I haven't watched.
He's cool about everything else until you either mess with his family or talk shit on his hair.
Yeah,
which they eventually give a backstory to that. But other characters,
of course, they do.
Yeah,
that's another thing I like about it. There's a backstory.
He had a run-in with Videl Sassoon.
There's a monologue for every goddamn thing. Why do you wear that green jacket every day? Well, it was 5 years ago. It's like, oh god damn it.
Right, but with his, what's even better is they drop so many hints that it's supposed to tie into some weird thing, and no, it's just a random incident that affected his life forever.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I mean, all the characters have these overlapping sets of flaws, so their flaws are what bring them together more as a group.
Yeah,
they can agree with each other because of the way they're being played. It creates more interesting, more alive characters than I am player character. I go stabby stab. I take 20 check for traps.
Yeah, Another thing is to keep in mind that with these complementary flaws, it's also defining what is a flaw and what isn't a flaw, because that depends on your campaign and the characters, obviously. But like. Red Markets is actually a good example for that because, characters have soft spots and weak spots. And I forget, I always mix up which one, but one of them is like something that would be considered a virtue or a good trait before the, zombie apocalypse.
Soft spot.
Yeah, soft spot. So like,
it's something
gives a shit about animals. Like that's most people would not consider that a flaw. They would consider that as a noble virtue. Oh, you take care of animals. You volunteer at the animal shelter. That's good for you. Obviously, that might even you could in Fate, if you say animal lover or gives a shit about animals or whatever, you could use that. You could invoke that to make friends with that stray dog or whatever. And
but that becomes twice as devastating when you lose any of them. Or
if you move, I'll shoot this chicken. It's like, well, okay, well, I won't move. No, don't shoot chicken.
So then we have the fake character for Gonzo the Great.
Yeah, exactly. So, so a lot of character traits, or it could be even like billionaire, like that could be a disadvantage if your like character is extremely rich. If like then every time like in a game where there's I'm a super hacker, I will hack your money, and then unless you do what I want, then I'm being blackmailed, then. Or you have
the public face that you're
lazy mooching relatives who show up and interfere with your character.
Or you're descending into the dark underworld of crime, and you're a known face to be a rich person. You're a mark.
Okay,
there you go. Yeah.
See, that would be amazing too with the mooching one. I could just imagine sitting here going like, "Well, we got to plan out this. We have this villain who's coming in the week. Who's at the door? It's the goddamn Sackville Bagginses again."
Yeah. In fact, as a GM, if somebody like next time Tom makes a millionaire character, I'm gonna be like, another asshole is at your door. It's like, it's your Uncle Steve. I don't have an Uncle Steve. He says he's your Uncle Steve. Look, he has proof. And then like, you didn't max out your detect lie skill. Well, I guess you believe him. Yeah. So like, there's a con artist every week.
Yeah.
I mean, any positive trait could be a negative. Martial artist. Oh, well, guess what? That drunk frat bro who's staggering down the street is going to pick a fight with you.
Or even better, like if you're like a renowned martial artist, how many people are coming out of the mountains just to fight you this time? So
you're in a Wild West setting. I'm the fastest draw in the West. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, shit, brother.
That's like
what's happening.
The old Far Side cartoon with the guy who ping pongs. It's like, now every punk with a paddle is going to be coming through. Welcome to hell, kid.
Or even just like you're trying to talk to someone and get them to confide in you. And all right, I'm going to compel. They just see the coldness in your eyes and realize you're a fucking killer, and they're not going to give you any information. So so anything can be a flaw. Anything can be an interesting disadvantage.
I mean, again, let's go back to the JoJo thing.
Yeah,
some of the weakest powers in JoJo are some of the deadliest.
Yeah,
I mean, I once read the description. Somebody made a joke on a forum about JoJo is kind of like. Follow me on this. JoJo's overall is kind of like once they hit the stands and the powers like that.
Sure.
Baz Luhrmann's take on X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Only in this version, Jubilee is the deadliest person on the planet. because she'll make your eyeballs explode.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's about it.
No, especially part 3 is really good about this because every single villain is a gimmick, at least in the first half, and like
every fight's a puzzle.
Every fight is a puzzle, and then the players have to figure it out. So it's almost you could actually run JoJo in Gumshoe very easily.
It's actually how I read Nice Black Agent fights are supposed to go. Is that you're not fighting the vampire, you're solving the mystery of how to stop him. Mm-hmm. So,
one of our shout outs, Spectral, is amazing for that. So we'll talk about that in the shout outs. But like, it's literally a Nice Black Agent game. So, yeah, even though it's ghosts instead of vampires.
Ghosts can be vampires.
Yeah, that's true. They could. I don't want to discriminate against ghosts or vampires
or vampire ghosts.
If you're a vampire, you can be whatever kind of monster you want to be.
Right. Well,
if you want to be a Frankenstein vampire, you be a Frankenstein vampire.
To be honest, vampires were originally ghost stories.
Your ghost story.
Yes.
Wow.
What is that wrong?
Well, just a holiday bird for you.
Not really.
I'm the ghost of Christmas present, motherfucker.
There you go. So in terms of character flaws, what other advice would you get? Is there any other advice you would give to players who are like still like, I don't want to put my character in a bad spot. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose a fight. I don't want to that kind of thing.
I mean, I think everybody still has that little bit of I want to do an awesome thing in the game.
Yeah,
and everybody's been through a session where you were just the bitch monkey of the session.
Yeah,
it happens. You get over it. But I mean, I personally, I get in. I'm still thinking about how do I solve this puzzle? How do I move the? I've been in games where I'm sitting there going, "There's no plot happening." Mm-hmm. I'm getting impatient. I want to move the plot forward, so I'm going to act with not really out of character information, but I'm going to try to force things a little bit.
Yeah.
And actually, there's. It's kind of silly the way I put it when I was talking to somebody about this, but when they asked about like about characters and their moments, say like it's wait for your moment.
Yeah.
And build it up, because I always take what was Early's line from Firefly when he's talking to Simon. He always points the guns like, it's not your moment yet, Doctor. And that's actually a good example of it, that you have you take that episode with Simon's trying to get the points on there, and he finally sees his advantage. He dumps all his points and drops on Early. Yeah, think about that example. Just wait for your moment, build it up, take that disadvantage, and then when you see it, go for it.
As far as advice goes, one, don't be afraid to play up a, don't be afraid to actually just play up a disadvantage, because that can actually define an entire character.
Yeah.
Some of the more satisfying characters I've ever played, I can look at one or two disadvantages and go, I just played that up, and not only was it kind of fun, not only was it memorable, but it even helped the group on a few occasions.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the main thing, obviously this all depends on having a good GM, to be honest. If you do have a killer GM or an old school GM or someone who doesn't understand narrative structure either and will just exploit characters and not let them win even after they've been suffering for a while. I mean, not let them win, but
not give the opportunity.
Not give the opportunity. Then that's kind of hard. So, but I think most GMs really want to collaborate on that kind of thing, and are especially those that are playing Fate, because that's what Fate is about.
Right.
And another thing, obviously this advice all depends on your GM. But one thing is also, even in games that don't have player narrative kind of agency things, games like Fate or Eclipse Phase or any of the games we've talked about so far, even games like Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green, which have disadvantages but have no balancing mechanism, and we'll talk about this specifically in the anecdote, the example. I'm pointing at Shaun, by the way.
Yeah,
but
I did a thing.
It can be, even if it just puts your character to pure detriment. I mean, role-playing games are about telling stories. They're about...
Absolutely.
And so and if you're playing a game like Call of Cthulhu, it's not necessarily a heroic game. It's a game about horror. And that's sort of the interesting part of it.
And I actually have a really good example with one of our players in the Patreon game. The last one that I ran was a Delta Green scenario that involved the Shaun. Insects from Shoggoth. So
I'm an insect now.
Shoggoth?
Or yeah, you're right.
Shoggoth is a big...
Sorry, I said Shoggoth. I meant Shoggoth. So anyway, he's already in my brain. But
better get a flare gun.
Yeah, we didn't have one this time around. But talking about at least player as a player. There's a word I'm thinking about.
Disadvantages? Or?
Disadvantage also. Yeah. The
temporary. In Call of Cthulhu, in Delta Green, the disadvantages are called insanity.
Oh, sorry. But disadvantage, but also player agency, too. This wasn't a bad one. That this guy, he rolled a critical failure after he had shot the guy, this old agent that the Shaun was inhabiting. He took And I said, all right, you critically failed those. So you know there's an itching in the back of your head. And I told him ahead of time, just kind of, I was about to type in saying, you were going to have to roll stand checks to make sure that you're keeping in check into this point. So you're going to hear another voice. He did not do that. He just said, like, no, this sounds like a great idea. This goes for it. He chose to just roll with it as part of the character and had an absolute blast with it. And that's another one where you look to seeing that as a character a failure for that, somebody would fight against that, saying like, no, I don't want to do this, which is why I gave the option. But he saw it as a storytelling opportunity that he wanted to roll with it and see. And they eventually killed him, but he was happy with what he came with.
Yeah, actually, our actual play, Sunset of the King, it's kind of entirely based on players missing some sense motive or psychology checks and being like, yeah, no, this is legit. Let's just help this guy make his movie. Oh, he's a cultist? It's fine. And so it's like embracing the typical failure, quote unquote, mode of Cthulhu. So
and it could go either way too sometimes, because granted, I'll tell on myself now for one of our games. There's a monster that turned up in one of our Delta Green or Call of Cthulhu games, and Ross said, "You gonna look around? I'm not looking up. I'm looking by side to side and back." It's like metagaming ass.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I cop to it, but
all right, that's fair. Well, so anyways,
but a lot of Call of Cthulhu games do have, and whenever I hear stories about it, the really good stuff starts with, and then I failed my sand check.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
So yeah, you have to embrace the narrative structure of the game you're playing. Don't. And even in heroic games, sometimes the best D&D stories are the ones that result in a TPK.
Oh yeah,
at least the more memorable ones.
Somebody made some critical error, and then everybody else just goes, well,
snowballs out of there. So. Yeah. So I think, so just think about player disadvantages and how they're actually not terrible, but awesome. And you should have at least one disadvantage or flaw for every character you play.
The seemingly negative things are what really builds the character as a person.
Absolutely. Just remembering, in Fate, failure is an option.
And the reason why, if your character is boring, think about one of the main things in fiction, period, is one of the rules is like, think about what your character is good at, what this fictional character is good at, and then make them do the thing that they're worst at. So make the hard-assed ad executive who's really good at manipulating people have to deal with his family and emotions. The person, oh yeah, there you go. It's something called Mad Men, or the guy who's a brilliant scientist, a brilliant chemist, and guess what? He's really good at science, but he has to do crime now in order to pay for all this shit, which he's terrible at, lying and manipulating people. He doesn't know anything about that, and he's just a scientist. So, that's Breaking Bad. So, character flaws drive narrative, and role-playing games are about narrative. Like, they're about telling some kind of story. If you don't have flaws, what kind of narrative can you have?
Absolutely.
So, just look at JoJo, one of the greatest anime narratives of our time.
One of the most influential, to be honest. That's one of the scary parts. Where it was like kind of, oh, this is crap. There's a lot of backlash on the internet. Yeah. But it's just like, guys, this has been around since the 80s. Yeah. And every time you see a wacky pose or high fashion stuff sneak into anime, there's a respectable chance that some manga artist just kind of looked back and went, I like JoJo. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Japan is 100% on board with this, how can you not be?
Right.
So when we get back,
there we go.
When we get back, we'll have shout-outs and anecdotes.
Yep.
And we're back. From whatever
pregnant pause.
Yes. From whatever vaporwave or other music I've chosen to put in there.
Calypso.
Maybe it won't be vaporwave. Maybe it'll be something different. I do have a vaporwave album that I want to.
Do you have vaporwave holiday music?
Oh yeah, there's that.
Okay.
So there's
why not?
But no, this is an evergreen episode. This is for around the year. We just happen to be recording in December, so
right.
Anyways, first off, I want to mention Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. It is a Italian. He's Italian, right? It is a masterpiece of fiction. It is quite good, and it's hard to describe the narrative other than it's a series of conversations between Marco Polo and Genghis and Kublai Khan, or is it Genghis? Talking about as he Marco Polo starts describing these cities that are at the Khan's great empire that the Khan has never visited, and each city is different in a really weird way. And then in between these conversations about the cities, they question the nature of reality itself. Are we really who we think we are, or are we just two poor people imagining these things in an alley among the trash and refuse? Or do those cities exist? Do I exist? And each section is about like memory or truth, or each has a theme. Like death or something like that. So
it's a grand thought experiment then.
It's really cool. Like every city, I don't know. It's a very quick read. It's like only 165 pages.
Every chapter's a liar's conundrum kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like meditations upon reality and like thinking. It's really good. Like, oh, in this city, the traders all come to meet and they tell each other stories. So they trade their memories with each other and then they leave. In this city, the people take the dead and they've built the exact replica of their city below which, and they pose they're dead. But every time they come back, the dead are in different positions doing different things. So the dead have their own lives. This city is built over a chasm and suspended with ropes. And it could fall at any time, but the people continue on. It's just a really cool read. I don't know how else to describe it. Let's see here. You wanted to talk about something.
There's actually one series that I picked back up into second season called Humans. BBC series was actually, believe it was based off of a Swedish series. I may have talked about this before, but in the same vein as Westworld, it came out, deals with artificial beings, synths who are set up as more of servants, very human-like, that with a small group, originally in the first season that gained consciousness through experiments of their creators, and the second season is dealing with the fact that at the beginning of the season, one of the escapees releases a code into the system that is now randomly waking up other synths. So it's an alternative to Westworld, despite the fact that it is excellent, and you should see that series regardless. That's more of like the human reflection on that world. This is actually more or less about these synths waking up into consciousness, how to deal with it, how they are that's like reckoning with human emotions and trying to establish connections while dealing it from an outsider's perspective. And all of the acting is just phenomenal in there. I'm very sad the fact that I need to get all the actors' names, because the only person I recognize from anything previously is the woman who, I'm trying to remember her character's name. She played Jen in the IT Crowd. And of course, taking a dramatic role is just, she's phenomenal, and again, proving the fact that if you want a dramatic role, you need a comedian. So, in that place. But yeah, if you would like to see another good series about just, again, consciousness waking up and how you deal with that fact, this is an excellent one to go with.
The thing about comedians, drama, this isn't quite a shout out, but I haven't read the review yet, but I've heard that the Village Voice review for Collateral Beauty, the new Will Smith movie, has some really good lines in it about like Will Smith is doing that thing where comedians mistake seriousness for not giving the audience anything to give a shit about or something like that. So I don't know. It looks. I kind of want to read that review, but that's not quite a shot. Anyways, Shaun, you had something. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to go with the movie. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's one that I thought needs to be looked at again, especially in light of. I know this is an evergreen, but in light of relatively recent political events. It's a movie called Being There. It was one of Peter Sellers' last movies, made in the 70s. The basic premise is this guy grows up in a house. His name is Chance the Gardener because his name is Chance. And he's the gardener for a very wealthy man. It's not much of a spoil to give the basic outline of the premise, but he, the old man that had basically raised him to be a gardener and be polite and nothing else, passes away. Well, the children take over the estate, and they pretty much kick Chance out. He's left on the street. The house is from one of those neighborhoods. Remember, this is based in the 70s. It's in a neighborhood, I forget if it was in Washington, D.C. or New York, where the rest of the neighborhood had kind of fallen to crap.
Yeah.
Buildings were falling down, but this one house was kept nice. He walks out of that house with nothing but a suitcase with some basic, decent clothes, and it's his journey of basically running into people that are powerful and influential and being so polite, so germane, that they just assume he's agreeing with them. And really, Chance is intended to be, in the truest sense of the word, an idiot. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's agreeing
Kind
with.
of a Candide kind of guy.
Right.
It's kind of a reflecting board off of.
Yeah, what happened? Exactly. Yes, he's kind of a reflecting board. He repeats the last few words of your sentence and almost a question or a positive based on what he expects you to want to hear.
That actually reminds me of an episode of Drunk History I watched a little while ago, talking about this guy. I can't remember his name, but he was like a con artist who, when he was arrested, wrote up these rules for con artists. And it was like like 3 or 4 of the rules is like listen to the other person and agree with whatever they're saying.
Yeah, so he'll agree.
Yeah.
And then basically he works his way up through the political structure very rapidly. He's being put onto talk shows, and he's just doing the same thing over and over again. So the audience gets that little hoodwink of, no, he really doesn't know what he's saying.
Yeah.
But everybody in the story is just wild about this guy because he's saying everything, and they're just agreeing with everything. Yes, he's the person who's going to change the country for the better. He knows how politics and economics work. No, he doesn't. Anyhow, just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, that's good. I would like to. I'll have to watch it. That actually sounds really good.
I can love it.
Cool. I would also like to mention a comic I've been reading lately, Baltimore. It's written by Mike Mignola. It's a Dark Horse. Yeah, it's like 35 issues out, 6 volumes, trade paperbacks now. I've read the first 3. It's set in 1916, where the Great War just stopped because vampires happened. And in the first volume, you'll find out basically vampires were just these basically like scavengers. They were greatly weakened at first, but then the Great War woke them up. They started feeding on the battlefields at night until Lord Baltimore, he's shot up on the battlefield. He's wounded. He's lost his leg. Is attacked by one of these things, but he's still got some life in him, so he stabs it in the eye. And it's like that blood, that attack awoke the full intellect of the vampire. And he's like, well, you done fucked up now. I'm going to go make me a lot of vampires, and I'm going to just, be an asshole. And Baltimore's like, what? Nuh-uh. And so he is looking for the vampire with one eye, and just going on this quest for revenge. Because
like you do.
Yeah, like you do.
My leg, how dare you?
Yeah, he has a wooden leg, he has a harpoon, a bunch of guns and pistols and stuff like that. And it's quite a very, 1916 era, but it's like the war stopped because of the plague, quote unquote, and vampires and shit. And the Inquisition is reformed and is, burning people at the stake. All kinds of other monsters are awakening. It's not in the Hellboy universe.
Yeah, I knew it was separate. So
yeah, separate. But it's got a lot of the similar themes. Statuary fucking everywhere. Creepy statues. And it's quite entertaining ride. It's like early weird fiction stuff. The first volume is inspired by William Hope Hodgson, who wrote House on the Borderlands
and the Sargasso Sea stuff, right?
Well, I was thinking the Borderlands, which I have read. And he's one of the authors that inspired H.P. Lovecraft. So, and Hodgson actually did die in the Great War. It's really cool. I like it. So, anyways, Aaron, you. Oh yeah, it's
yeah. So I had one other thing. Something I've gotten into over the last summer from it because about 2 years ago, I watched my first Super Sentai series, Go Kaiser, which was that. So I've gotten into more of tokusatsu. And speaking of kind of maybe using our tropes, or specifically for JoJo, that can say the same thing for tokusatsu's anime. But I'm watching those current Kamen Rider series, which is like their lone masked rider of a series called Kamen Rider X-Aid. Yeah, weird name, I know. It's supposed to be medical. The basis of this is that you have a team of doctors who are fighting what they call the Bugster virus, a massive conspiracy from the Ministry of Health that they've covered up to make sure that people don't realize that aliens are infecting them and trying to essentially hatch eggs from their own bodies. So,
like you do.
So, the way that they give them their powers is that they're giving them what are called game drivers and forms based off of popular video games from this fictional video game developer company. Basically, imagine if Nintendo gave you a Mario cartridge that turned you into Mario.
Okay.
And it is just bizarre, but the reason
to fight alien hepatitis C.
Exactly, it is exactly what you think it is.
Okay,
but the fun thing is that you have a bunch of other behind the scenes things where the video game company is trying to. We haven't really figured out the reason why they want to promote these games for some other purpose. There's testing behind it, and of course, everybody has the bevy of different character flaws. Like the main one has the main character has a split personality that he goes into when he fights, which is another nice little fate option if you do. The other, you have your general tsundere, I cannot be touched one. You have the jerk ass, two jerk asses off to the side. So if you like colorful, yet
is it on Crunchyroll?
I believe it is on Crunchyroll. I could be wrong, or else you can find subbers if you need to. So
yeah.
For that if you want, but check Crunchyroll first. I
want to mention one other thing. Well, a couple other things. I know you have something else.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to mention the Vaporwave album that I want to review. This is. God,
let it go,
good
Aaron.
one. Even the AV Club liked it. So Onion AV Club liked it. This is Rain Temple by 2814. It is a very. Vaporwave is a very broad term, I think, and it's more of an ambient sort of cyberpunk kind of late night soundtrack of it's mellow but kind of dissonant a little bit. It reminds me of Boards of Canada a little bit, and the Silent Hill soundtrack too. Anyways, it's really good. I quite enjoy it. And 2814, I like his work. He also did A Bright New Day, which I've also reviewed on the podcast, I believe. But it's, I don't know, it's really great for writing for me. Like, I'm writing a lot of red markets listening to Vaporwave, and this is one of the best Vaporwave albums I've listened to in a long time. So, if you want to give Vaporwave a try, you should try Rain Temple. I'll put a link in the show notes. Cool. You can stream it free on Bandcamp. You've been, speaking of streaming...
So, okay. Every now and again you just can't sleep and you need, you're sitting in bed, there's TV, you flip through Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and you're like, I haven't watched everything I feel like watching right now. I'm not in the mood. And then something pops up and you're like, yeah, sure, why not? And you throw it on and you're just like, this is crap. I hate this part and this part. I'm going to watch the next episode. All right. So I've been watching Ice Fantasy on Netflix. It is a long-running, like 60-some-odd episodes, Chinese fantasy epic. The whole setup is that it is a fantasy setting. There's the realm of the immortals, and there's different immortal clans. There's the Ice Clan and the Fire Clan. Because Wu-Tang I think comes in later. I don't know.
Okay.
And they're always at odds because the Ice Clan are good-natured people, but they're kind of cold. Hey, the Fire Clan have horrible tempers, and they're trying to stir shit up. There's like other clans. And
sure.
It's a little bit... It feels almost like the Chinese fantasy regular made-for-TV equivalent of Game of Thrones, and that they're trying to give these Byzantine machinations behind everything. Yeah. The Fire Clan launches an attack, and it's up to the scion of the Ice Clan to go to the mortal realm. Yeah, so all the magic looks like they're doing kung fu. All the kung fu looks like they're doing kung fu. 9 times out of 10, attacks miss, but somebody goes flying. Outside of that, though, they've got these great, sweeping, panning shots, and it feels epic, but you can always pick out tons of flaws. So you want to be infuriated, but it's kind of cool.
Okay.
Special effects, makeup stuff, it's actually pretty good in a weird sort of way. Mm-hmm. So I'm like on episode 6 now.
Of 60.
Of 60. And I'm probably going to actually finish this one unless it just gets too awful. But it's definitely, it's not.
I've never heard of this. I'm glad you did
it just popped up.
Okay.
So it'll be out there for a little bit by the time this airs. But
yeah.
If you're not trying to think too hard and you've already been exposed to Chinese fantasy movies.
Yeah.
It's worth a shot.
I mean, it's all subtitled, too. It's not dubbed.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there might be a dubbed option. I never check.
Okay.
I just go for
Netflix seems to be pulling some of those up.
Yeah, I know people are mixed on sub and dubs, but I know if for a lot of people, if they're too tired and they want to watch Netflix, they don't want to read. So,
I've just been seeing subtitles most of my life.
Sure.
So I'm just used to it.
You're just hardcore.
Yeah. Right.
And so speaking of Netflix, my last one is Spectral. The new movie that has been released on Netflix. And one of the actors in it was actually in The Wait, a movie I did some work on last year. The guy who's now Detective Riggs in the Lethal Weapon TV series. He plays one of the special forces. He's not the main character. He's one of the special forces guys assisting the main character. But Spectral was actually slated for release into theaters, and then it got shelved for some reason, and then Netflix got it. So it actually has like a big budget movie, like for special big movie budget in terms of special effects.
Cool.
They shot in Hungary. They have practical effects as well as CGI. And the premise is that their U.S. forces are in Moldova during a civil war to protect refugees and whatnot. And then people just start dying for if you see from the trailer, they're basically, it looks like ghosts are running through them, and they just fall over dead. And they have, the thing is, so the movie is about this engineer who builds these hyperspectral goggles, which look in all wavelengths of light. And the special forces units are using them, and they can actually see the ghosts. The ghosts are invisible normally. And they're like, what the fuck is that? And then they get run over and killed. And so the U.S. tells the guy who built it, come over here, help us figure this shit out. And so the movie is about him accompanying a team of special forces guys to go into the field and check this shit out and figure out what to do. And from the trailer, you can see bullets don't hurt these things.
Just be a ghost.
Yeah, they're ghosts. They're murder ghosts. And it's actually a really good movie as a sort of procedural, in terms of it's a straight up, one thing I like is the characters don't really do anything exceptionally horror movie stupid. They don't I'll go off by myself and smoke some weed, ha ha ha, or
no
I'm
genre
gonna
points.
Or yeah, there's no genre points. If it was a slasher flick game, they all behave sort of intelligently based on what information they have. No one's there's no contrived drama.
So is there no general our entire team was wiped out, let's send in another one?
So it's more like Delta Green than Slasher Flick in that respect.
No, the thing is, I don't want to spoil what the murder ghosts are or what the plot twist is. But this would be perfect this is a perfect game of Night's Black Agent in terms of high action sort of Night's Black Agent, because there's the CIA agent too, there's the scientist, and then there's the special forces guy, so you can have multiple character types, and then you have the supernatural thing that is killing people, and then of course you're in Eastern Europe and there's insurgents around you and weird stuff going on, and it is so I really enjoyed it for that reason. And yeah, so if you already have Netflix, you might as well watch it.
Pretty much,
it's an hour and 40 minutes. So I liked it. But I don't want to say anything else because there is kind of a plot twist.
Watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll watch it. See what I see.
And finally, we have anecdotes. And to bring up the disadvantage, I want to bring up Shaun from I've been running Delta Green games lately, and the Delta Green games I have been running are based on I'm running all the published new Delta Green scenarios. So far I've run Kaligata and Last Things Last. Last Things Last is a starter scenario in Delta Green Need to Know, and that was quite fun. I'm also going to run Observer Effect, which is out. Shout out to Observer Effect.
There we go.
I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. But it is out. Then Star Chamber, which is out, and then I think there's going to be one or two other couple. I know there's a couple scenarios on Patreon that I'm going to run. But anyway, Last Things Last. The players have a very simple job. To go, retired Delta Green agent has died. They just have to go through his things and find anything related to conspiracy and take it before his family shows up. Is what is this folder talking about murdering people? That's not good. What's this green triangle? So so spoilers for Last Things Last. First off,
we are going to spoil it. Okay.
Well, okay, I'm going to spoil it in sort of vague sense. They get to a place where they found out the Delta Green agent was not truthful. And there's a monster that's being held underground in an underground location, and basically it's real bad. And so the players, you explain from there.
Okay. One little thing, Cash, to point out. In the previous scenario, Kaligata, I had just failed so many sand checks because I played a persuasive character in a combat mission. I failed. I had 3 breaks.
Yeah.
So my character was really fucked in the head and drunk half the time. So was great.
It really is.
Hey guys, want to pull up a Jim Beam? What? Fine. I mean, yeah, but you know, or I think David. There was one line about, well, I don't think we should take you anywhere right now. I'm functional. But finally, we get after like a lot of incidents because he'd also become a bit of a borderline personality.
Yeah,
because he was manipulative to start with, and now he's convinced. You know, you have to fight for everything. I'm the only person who's right. That kind of thing. So he goes from being kind of persuasive and manipulative to just an ass. We get there. The group is just kind of metagaming without knowing the scenario.
Yeah.
We're like, no, we're just going to pour gas down everything, and we're going to burn whatever's in this.
To be honest, I don't think it's that metagaming because there's enough foreshadowing to kind of.
Right. So there is
the letter that says to do exactly that.
Well, right. But we are just like, we are finding every tiny little way to make sure that we are not going to be exposed to whatever's in there.
Yeah. But you fail a sand check.
Yeah, Ross says make a sand check and pick an insanity. I was like, none of these other ones apply really.
Yeah.
So borderline personality. And Ross starts giggling. Like he does. We hear a voice coming from outside. Or from inside. From inside.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a civilian in the...
And everybody else made their sand checks because I'm sitting on a 28.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what it winds up happening is Ross goes, well, you have to save whoever's in there. I have to save whoever... Oh, fuck. All right, fine. We're doing this. Everybody else...
I think I justified it's like, you're right, they're wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
you know, we were wrong about this all along. Oh, my God.
You have to be the hero.
And I am just doing every persuasive trick out the wazoo. And then I pull a gun because almost nobody else in the group had managed to acquire firearms.
Yeah.
I was an FBI agent. So, hey, I can take guns into an airport. Yeah. So I draw on the group, and I'm just like doing everything to throw down every bit of rhetoric to state that obviously this agent went nuts at the end, and there's a poor woman stuck in there. She's going to die. And then Ross says, well, she starts rising out of the thing, and I'm obviously wrong, but I'm a borderline personality, so I can't be wrong. They're all back in trying to figure out what to do because there's fumes coming out of this thing now. You know, we're all holding guns, so we're scared to shoot at her. I was like, how close are they to the opening, Ross? What do you mean, Shaun? How close are they to the opening? Is that a metal hatch? Yes. Happy birthday, Ross. I open fire on the hatch to create sparks to set off the fumes. Because I'll be the big damn hero and destroy it.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah, all that splash gasoline, too.
I spent a lot of time apologizing to players after that.
Yeah. So you can hear the fallout for that when we get post that actual play.
God,
but that's a disadvantage. I mean, it didn't give your character any benefit whatsoever.
Oh, but it was funny.
It made a more interesting narrative.
I was playing a character I wanted to see, a story I wanted to see in a show, as opposed to the maximum advantage that we'd engineered. One simple failed roll. I could have found some other way around it, but I'll pat myself on the back, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to see where this went, and my goal is I'm riding this character off the cliff. All right, I'm seeing how far I can push him.
And to be honest with you, because to bring up another one potentially for another anecdote too, in this case, when we played Downslope.
Oh God, that
and I lost was like 30 points in one go. It's like, yep. You know what?
Yeah, sign me up, y'all.
Yeah, sign me up, y'all. I'll be a time lord. What?
Yeah, that AP is out. So
yeah, it's just there's just a lot of great APs if you go back and listen to. I mean, again, I'll point out a lot of what the players did in. Are we calling that Two Banners? That campaign?
Fallen Flag?
Yeah, Fallen Flag. Was it?
Yeah.
The Fallen Flag campaign had a lot of great examples of just a player going, well, I could do something that would be beneficial to the group, but no.
I want that will point.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight for that will point. I think we all pulled that one at some. I think
that was because will points turn out to be really useful in Red Mark, especially when you crit fail a dodge check or something.
A lot when you keep crit failing it,
or
those moments where like somebody decides to. Decisions are made. I think you've already posted the one involving the Raiders and something Amu did.
Yeah. Listen to Fallen Flag.
It's great.
But yeah, player disadvantages make the more interesting game. I mean, that campaign would have been a lot more boring if you guys weren't tearing at each other. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, it builds character. It builds the actual stories you want to hear, the stories that you're okay telling somebody that make it actually sound interesting to play as opposed to, but I built my character build this way so that I was immune to fire, and the GM had the nerve to pull a fire enemy. Ho ho! Nobody cares.
Yeah, and sometimes you can do that, but otherwise, don't fear failure. let it benefit you.
There you go. Words of wisdom from Aaron. This is Recipe. This has been RPPR episode 137. JoJo's Compelled Aspect. Thanks for listening.
Bye.